A devoted mother of two is run down in broad daylight.
It sounded like an enormous crash and this high, blood-curdling scream.
Her children see what no child should see.
They were kicking windows, they were trying to open the doors, they were doing everything they could to try to get to her.
It's horrible. I can't describe how horrible it is.
Police scour the city for a mysterious blue car.
I don't know where he is or even where he went. And the longer that takes to find him, the more difficult this becomes.
In order to catch a killer, Lt Joe Kenda must enter a sordid world of jealousy and betrayal and put a mother's love for her son to the ultimate test.
I said, most of the policemen I know are going to shoot first and ask questions later. If you want your son to survive this, surrender him to me. I have a very clear sense of right and wrong. There is no gray in my world. There is only black and white. There are people among us who shouldn't be allowed to be among us. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I'm Lt Joe Kenda. I've solved over 387 homicides. Somebody has to take control. Somebody has to look out for the victim. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved.
Memorial Day in Colorado Springs. Barbecues are sizzling, kids are playing outside, and parents all over the city are enjoying a much-needed day off.
Everybody was out enjoying their holiday weekend. The weather was nice. People were out planting flowers and walking their dogs.
In her house on East Maple Street, homemaker Lisa Jones and her son are getting ready to leave.
Michael, are you ready? Put your shoes on, they're on their way, okay?
Lisa's friend, Shaundra, should be there any minute to pick them up. They're headed to a birthday party for Shaundra's son.
They were all excited to get together, Lisa and Shaundra, the kids and the boyfriend. So everybody was all geared up, everybody was all happy and excited.
But their enthusiasm is suddenly cut short.
It sounded like, a huge, horrible wreck and an enormous crash. And then the scream, that high, blood-curdling scream.
Oh my gosh.
Lisa came out of the house knowing there had been some kind of big crash, but never in a million years did she expect to see her friend flat on the ground.
Lying battered and bloody in the street is Shaundra Murr, still conscious, but seriously injured.
You're gonna be okay.
Shaundra's shell-shocked boyfriend, Brian Simmons, is trying to stop the bleeding from multiple wounds to her body.
She had extreme damage to her torso, the legs, and abdomen area. A lot of blood loss.
It was clear that a car had hit her.
Sandra!
Lisa tries to comfort her friend, but Shaundra begs her to help in a different way.
The kids! Where's the kids?
They're in the car.
She was calling to her friend Lisa to please keep the kids away. She didn't want the kids to see her like that.
Will you get them? Yes. Please.
Shaundra's two young children are just a few feet away.
Those kids were put in the horrible situation of witnessing their mother being critically injured.
They were kicking windows, they were trying to open the doors, they were doing everything they could to try to get to her.
Lisa ushers Shaundra's children into her house, away from the horrific accident.
Look this way.
Minutes later, Shaundra is on her way to the nearest trauma center, accompanied by her boyfriend, Brian Simmons. Across town, Lt Joe Kenda is letting off some steam at the firing range when he gets an urgent call.
When I first got this call, and I said, well, it's hit and run accident, traffic is there, but they want you there. And I thought, really? If traffic wants me there, they have a reason. Maybe this isn't a wreck. Let's go see.
Automobile accidents aren't usually Kenda's territory, but dispatch informs him that officers on the scene are requesting his assistance.
In the police world, everyone has specific responsibilities. The traffic unit, division, whatever it's called in the agency, is responsible for accidents. Then they have the other side of the house, which would be me. Homicide, major crimes, violent crimes investigations, known by a number of different names across the United States. The end result is the same. If this is willful and knowing behavior, and someone is seriously injured or killed as a result of that willful, knowing act, then that is an act of murder or attempted murder. And that's where I would come in and traffic would then leave.
The police department was notified of this incident, originally identified it as a traffic accident where somebody had struck a pedestrian on the roadway. Patrol officers responded and started that investigation and determined that there appeared to be a little bit more criminal intent.
I know the traffic guys, and they're sharp. In the opinion of the traffic officers, this is most likely not survivable.
Moments later, Kenda arrives on East Maple Street and finds a crowd of spectators.
Because it was the holiday, everybody in that neighborhood is outside when this event occurs. So when I get there, it is a tsunami of information.
Gentlemen,
Hello, sir.
I see traffic's here. Why was homicide call?
We have a victim transported to the hospital in critical condition.
Kenda learns that the victim, 23-year-old Shaundra Murr, has been rushed to Memorial Hospital and is undergoing emergency surgery.
She has severe lacerations to the left leg and hip area. She has crushing injuries to her chest. They thought that her leg was near the point of amputation, so her condition was grave.
The scene has all the hallmarks of a standard hit and run.
When the car runs away after having hit someone, the usual immediate answer a policeman comes to is, the driver's drunk. It's a holiday weekend.
But as he surveys the point of impact, Kenda makes an intriguing discovery.
There's a pair of Pony brand white tennis shoes that were found in the street. Shaundra was wearing those when that car hit her. The impact is so severe that it literally lifts her body out of her shoes.
That's not the only peculiar detail. Not far from the shoes is a set of skid marks.
Skid marks can tell you a lot. They can tell you direction of travel, how fast a car was going at the time an accident occurs.
Braking action, skid mark, they're darkest when the brakes are slammed on. Then they tend to fade a little and then be dark again at the very end when the car comes to a stop.
These tracks are different. They're thinner, and the rubber is burnt into the pavement, something that's caused by spinning tires.
These are not braking marks, they're acceleration marks. Now I do know why I'm here. I don't think this is an accident. I think somebody did this on purpose. It's not a drunk. It's a guy committing a crime and using a car as a weapon.
Detectives, what's it look like?
Well, I came down here to measure the skid mark, only you see how it's darker in the middle and lighter on the edge?
Doesn't look like you're trying to avoid an accident, does it?
Nope.
All right, we'll take it from here.
Not far from where Shaundra's shoes were discovered, Kenda's team spots a parked car with fresh blood on it.
Crime scene?
It receives damage to the left front driver's side, which was consistent with just being struck by another vehicle.
Yeah, it's odd to see what the initial impact was.
On the street, not far from the bloody sedan, Kenda and his team find another clue.
There's acceleration skids in the grass where the car's tires are still spinning even after this car has jumped the curb. and there is blood in the grass, quite a bit of it, from our victim.
It was still exhilarating when we went in the yard.
You can tell based on what you see in the grass marks, the tire marks on the road and transitioning to the grass, and then you can see where the grass was stripped, where it indicated that the vehicle was still accelerating at a high rate of speed.
Those marks in the grass indicated that those tires were spinning pretty quickly because it was tearing up the grass. So it was accelerating quite a bit backwards.
But what do all these clues add up to? To answer that question, Kenda and his team of investigators begin questioning the slew of onlookers, hoping to find someone who witnessed the accident firsthand. It isn't long before they hit pay dirt.
We have a young lady here who says she saw the whole thing.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda, and you saw what happened here?
I saw the whole thing.
Can you tell me exactly what you saw?
The woman's name is Andrea Williams. She doesn't live on Maple Street, but she tells Kenda she and her boyfriend happened to be driving by at the time of the incident.
It was just a beautiful day. My boyfriend Doug and I were driving around looking for a park.
Andrea says they had just pulled over on Maple Street when they noticed a young couple a few yards ahead of them. It was Shaundra Murr and Brian Simmons.
Some hot dogs?
Yeah.
Just then, a dark blue car pulled up to the couple.
A gentleman was in a blue car, and the lady was kind of on the sidewalk in the street. They were, a heated conversation.
There was an exchange of physical gestures, and then there was probably threats made back and forth.
Could you hear what they were saying?
Andrea says the blue car started to drive off, but then slammed on the brakes.
The driver throws the car in reverse and floors it.
Tires squealing, the driver swerved the car towards Shaundra.
Did you see that?
Oh my gosh. I just know he aimed the car straight for her, and he was going fast. I can still hear the sound of him hitting her.
He ran over her and pinned her up against that car.
Within seconds, you're going, oh my God, he hit her. Oh my God, he hit her.
With Shaundra pinned, the blue car continued accelerating in reverse, its wheels burning rubber on the pavement. Then, the car turned, forcing Shaundra under its tires as it backed over her.
He then completely ran over her, hit the curb, ran up on the curb into a yard, and crashed into a fence. He then put the car in forward, again driving over Shaundra when he was leaving the scene.
It's horrible. I can't describe how horrible it is.
Andrea's harrowing account of the incident dovetails with the skid marks and other evidence found on the scene. It also means Shaundra Murr was run down in front of her two young children on purpose.
I have children of my own, a boy and a girl. Here's a boy and a girl. Little, could have been mine. You see your own in these things. It just pains me to no end when I see a child suffer. They're innocent, and to have someone hurt them is something I just couldn't stand. I am going to find this person, and there's going to be no mercy when I do.
On Memorial Day, 1990, devoted mother of two, Shaundra Murr, was headed to her son's third birthday party.
She just loved children. She loved them. That was her life.
But on the way to the party, Shaundra was savagely run down.
This is by far the most violent act I've ever witnessed in my life.
Emergency responders rush Shaundra to nearby Memorial Hospital, where ER doctors are now fighting to save her life. Meanwhile, Lt Joe Kenda and his team of detectives are on the hunt for Shaundra's assailant. But who was behind the wheel? Kenda asks Eyewitness Andrea Williams for a description of the driver, but Andrea draws a blank.
I just wasn't getting a good picture of what he looked like or, who he was.
But in speaking with several neighbors, investigators learned there was someone in the back seat of the vehicle. As for the other bystanders who claim to have witnessed the accident, they all have a different story to tell.
I think it was 2 guys in the car.
3 guys were in the car.
I think there was a girl in the car.
Witnesses were telling us there was 2 people in the front seat. Other witnesses were telling us there was 3 people in the front seat. That was their perception from where they were standing and what they saw. It's not saying that they were making it up or lying, but it was their perception.
One witness thinks there's a girl in the car. Lots of information, none of it very clear. The witnesses, as always, are incredibly emotional and are screaming and yelling out their stories to the police.
In Kenda's experience, this is all too common during cases of extreme violence.
No one in that circumstance is trying to be unhelpful, but they're traumatized. So you have exaggerations, you have misunderstandings of what they saw. Your job is to decide what is accurate about this. What's going to be the most useful out of this cacophony of noise that might lead us somewhere? So what do we know? What we're fairly certain of, the car has more than 1 person in it. They're probably guys.
That's not all that Kenda knows about the assailant and his vehicle.
Looks like we got some paint transfer here also.
And the presence of blue paint on the car Shaundra was pinned against dispels any doubts as to the vehicle's color.
Dispatch, this is Lt Kenda. I need you to put out a high-priority bolo on a blue sedan, older model, possible multiple suspects with fresh rear damage.
A BOLO, short for Beyond the Lookout, is an emergency bulletin that goes out to every patrol officer in the area.
There is no place to go looking except to look everywhere. So you put this information out to all of your eyes on the street.
29213, 18th Avenue South.
Over the next 20 minutes, Kenda listens intently as officers all over the city make half a dozen traffic stops.
You hear someone call out. Have a blue car, color license, Lincoln David Adams, 616, stopping this and this address. Hey, is that it? No, is that the one? And then he'll be back at the air in like 15 seconds. Negative on the damage. Damage is old. I've released the car. You hear the next one, and the next one. And every one, you're hopeful. Okay, is that it? Is that it? No, it's not it.
Kenda knows the BOLO could take hours, if not days, to produce results. With the killer on the loose, he decides to focus on the details he does know, like the assailant's weapon of choice.
When someone elects to use something so unusual as a car as a way to kill, you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because it is a weapon of opportunity at that moment. He makes a decision that he needs a weapon. The only one he's got is a blue car. The driver, to be that angry, to be that out of control, has a long history with whoever he's trying to kill.
If the incident was personal, who in Shaundra's world would want to inflict such pain on her? With Shaundra fighting for her life, the most logical place to start is with her boyfriend, Brian Simmons.
We need to find Brian Simmons because he is standing next to the victim when Shaundra winds up getting run over.
They're on the way. Help is on the way. You're gonna be okay. Oh, thank you.
According to eyewitnesses, Brian rode in the ambulance that took Shaundra to the hospital. Kenda dispatches a detective to track him down.
The detective goes out to the hospital. He calls me back and he says, Simmons isn't here. Why isn't he here? Well, he got so emotional over the treatment of his girlfriend that the hospital people threw him out of the hospital. And nobody seems to know where he is at the moment. As soon as we can locate him, we need to ask him what he knows about this. He's critical to me at this point.
As his men work to track down Brian Simmons, Kenda turns to his next best option, Shaundra's friend, Lisa Jones.
Miss Jones?
Yes.
I'm Detective Kenda. It's possible to ask you a few questions about what happened?
Lisa is still very distraught, but she is able to at least converse with us. Who is this woman? Who is the victim of this crime?
She was a good girl. We were really close friends. She had children, I did. We hung out together.
Shaundra was a very outgoing young lady. She was a joy to have around. She was just a normal, good country girl.
Lisa has nothing but good things to say about her injured friend, but she also informs Kenda that Shaundra's life is far from perfect.
She's married to a guy named Lt Murr. They've been separated for 2 years. They're still legally married, but they don't live together. Lt Murr is as likely a candidate as anybody else. He's connected to her.
Lisa tells Kenda that Shaundra and Brent had frequent arguments over custody of their 2 children.
Anytime I investigate, I'm looking for something that sets off an alarm in my head. There was a great deal of trouble in that marriage.
She was dating other people?
Yes.
Was he upset by that, or?
I didn't think he liked it too well. They argued all the time.
You're crazy. You're absolutely insane.
Oh, I'm the crazy one?
You've lost your mind.
I'm the crazy one?
There's my alarm. And that alarm is going ding, ding, ding. I sent 2 detectives to find him, find Mr. Murr, and find out where he's been spending his holiday today.
Detectives tracked down Lt Murr at a backyard Memorial Day party on the other side of town.
How you doing? I'm Detective Kenda. Is there a Lt Murr here?
Sure. Brent.
Brent, I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
Nice to meet you.
Is Shaundra your wife?
Yeah. Why?
We don't tell people what's going on because it results in an emotional reaction that's not truthful. So we said to him, we're conducting a criminal investigation in which your estranged wife may or may not be involved. We just need to know why it is you 2 aren't together. Now, that makes people very curious, but it doesn't make them emotional.
Brent admits that their breakup was extremely difficult for both parties.
He's real straightforward about it, very honest about it.
I probably drank too much.
Well, I drank too much, and we fought about it, and we've had some trouble about custody with the kids, but that's about it. He knows that she has a couple of boyfriends. He doesn't know who they are. All of the stuff he describes are pretty common sorts of things. He's carrying on his life, and he's not part of this event.
Kenda asks Brent to explain his whereabouts at the time of the incident.
Have you seen Shaundra today?
No, I have not. I've been here most of the day, since 10.
It's an alibi the other partygoers vouch for.
You have a vehicle?
It's that black one on the street.
He doesn't own a blue car, and he hasn't left all day, and he is basically eliminated from the process.
Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It seems Kenda has hit a dead end, though not for long.
Go ahead for Kenda.
It's one of his detectives who's posted at the hospital in hopes of speaking with Shaundra Murr. He's got some bad news.
The detective calls back, said she's been pronounced.
It was just a horrible, 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 horrible thing.
If your child dies in an accident, or they die of a disease, you think, well, that's God's will. But to know that someone horrifically killed your child in a slow, painful way like that, you can't reason with that.
Okay, now we don't have an attempted murder. Now we have a murder.
Kenda checks on the progress of the bolo. In the hours since it was issued, police have stopped over a dozen blue cars, but none have fender damage consistent with Shaundra's murder. Kenda knows each minute that passes is a gift to his fugitive.
The last time anybody sees my killer, he's behind the wheel of a car. I don't know where he is, or even where he went. And the longer that takes to find him, the more difficult this becomes.
Just when it seems like the case is slipping through his fingers, Kenda gets an unexpected break. A break that could crack the case wide open.
They find the needle in the haystack of blue cars. That bolo has come back with a hit.
71 Bravo, Lieutenant Kenda. Yes, sir. I think we've got your blue sedan.
It is blue. It's in very poor condition. There is fresh damage to the rear of the vehicle.
And when patrol officers take a closer look, they find something even more damning.
There is blood on the underside of the car.
Your hands where I can see them.
I've been looking for a target, and now I have one.
"23-year-old mother of two, Shaundra Murr, has been run down in the middle of a quiet residential street. After holding on for hours, Shaundra has passed away. Now it's up to Lt Joe Kenda to track down her killer.
Shaundra Murr is an innocent person who's had her life taken away from her, with her kids being allowed to witness it. You can't have a more awful scenario than that. We've got to resolve this. We have to resolve this.
After questioning their first suspect, Shaundra's estranged husband, Brent Murr, Kenda and his team are back to the drawing board.
He's not our guy. He's not involved in this. He's got a very good alibi as to his whereabouts for the entire day. Okay, so one emotional connection is down. The only thing I can do is go with what I have. I know the car's blue. I'm fairly convinced of that. And at this point, that's the only straw I've got to grab at.
Thankfully, the bolo Kenda issued earlier seems to have paid off.
71 Bravo, Lt Kenda. Yes, sir. I think we've got your blue sedan. It's got severe rear damage.
2 cops stop a car. The blue car we've been looking for.
Your hands where I can see them. Show me your hands.
There are 2 occupants in this car.
Open the door from the outside.
The driver is a white male, blonde hair, 24 years old. His buddy, another white guy, is 22 years old.
Hands behind your back.
There is blood on the underside of the car.
Let's go.
While the men are being taken to homicide, their car is towed to the CSI garage for processing.
Hey, it's full of beer cans, liquor bottles. Let's get him to Kenda.
An hour later, Kenda and a crime scene tech are examining the vehicle.
We've got blood all over the bumper down here.
The technician runs a Kastle-Meyer test, which determines if a substance is in fact human blood. When the swab turns pink, it's confirmed. The blood is an irrefutable link to the murder of Shaundra Murr. But it's not the only evidence they've discovered.
When 2 cars collide, paint transfers one to the other.
So we've got some paint transfer here.
In this case, we find transfer paint. It's all over. No question, this is our car.
The car may be identified, but what about the men inside?
The driver is an individual identified as John Ritchie. Michael Schell is the passenger in this car.
John Ritchie works as a painter. Since he was the one behind the wheel, Kenda figures he's likely the killer. If so, then what was John's motive?
Everything about the knowledge of the event tells me that someone has an enormous amount of intent. They are enraged at Shaundra for some reason. I don't know what that is.
How you doing, John?
The driver has an odor of alcohol about his person, about his breath, these bloodshot eyes.
Is there a little problem here? Involved an accident a little while ago?
What accident?
John, the car that we caught you in with Michael, was it an accident?
There was no accident. We just started drinking this morning.
You were in this car all day?
Yes.
He goes through his little story about how it's not him, and he doesn't know anything about anybody getting hit with a car. He doesn't know anything.
Beyond not telling Kenda why he did it, John Ritchie isn't even acknowledging the basic indisputable facts.
With all the damage on the vehicle, blood on the vehicle, and you're gonna sit here and tell me you don't know anything about it?
No, I really don't. I didn't hit anybody.
You are in the suspect vehicle, the instrument of death in this case. You are driving it, but you don't know anything about this. I don't think so.
This is your chance to get on top of this and help yourself out, and it's the only chance you're gonna get. I'll tell you what, why don't you sit here and think about it for a little bit? I'll be back.
If John Ritchie won't offer any additional information, perhaps his pal Michael Schell will.
Michael Schell was a 21-year-old individual that worked at one of the local credit unions.
Before Kenda even goes in, one of his detectives informs him of a stunning development.
He's not giving me anything. He's smashed. You're not gonna believe this. He's her younger brother.
Her being Shaundra, the victim?
Yes, sir.
No.
It's like, what? He's who? He's her brother.
Hey guys, guess who's here? Uncle Michael. Let's go say hi.
Guys!
Hey!
How's it going?
Hey.
The sad part is, which is so ironic, I think, is that her brother was in the car when this happened.
It was just such an amazing coincidence that when they finally did discover the car, Shaundra's brother was in it. And you think, how could you have been in this without stopping it?
It's a question Kenda plans to put directly to Michael Schell, but getting an answer from him is easier said than done.
Should we have some coffee?
I went into the interrogation room, and this guy can't sit up. He's so drunk.
Nevertheless, Kenda presses on.
Michael, you with me?
He tells Michael that the car his friend John Ritchie was driving was used to run over and kill someone earlier that day.
Tell me what happened. Did John run into someone?
Michael can only stare at Kenda in disbelief.
You don't know? You don't remember? Talk to me here.
I don't remember.
He remembers being in the car, he remembers drinking, but he doesn't remember anything about anybody getting hit by a car.
As with John Ritchie, Kenda is unsure if Michael is telling the truth, too drunk to remember the truth, or merely stonewalling. So Kenda plays his trump card.
I ask him if he knows that his sister has been horribly hurt and might not survive as a result of this car that he was in, running over her.
Wait, she got hit?
Tell us what happened. Talk to me.
Michael comes unstuck emotionally, starts to cry, starts to scream, starts to pound his fist.
Kenda isn't sure what to think. Everything in his experience tells him Michael's grief is genuine. All Kenda knows for certain is that his witness has become completely unhinged.
Is he useful as a witness at this point? Absolutely not. He's had way too much to drink, so what's he going to tell us that's going to be of any use?
While it's possible Michael Schell was passed out in the passenger seat at the time Shaundra was killed, whoever was driving would have been sober enough to remember it. But until Michael Schell sobers up or John Ritchie starts talking, Kenda has a gaping hole in his case.
Now, it turns out that both of these clowns are wanted on signed complaints, misdemeanor offenses. So I can still hold them without trying to decide if they were driving the car during the crime. So, okay, all right, take him to jail.
Kenda's move works. Just moments later, John Ritchie decides he wants to talk, and what he says changes the entire direction of the case.
I wasn't driving earlier today.
I wasn't driving this car before. Before what? Well, there's this guy that was driving his car. Is the driver the guy that ran over this girl? I have the car. Now I need the name of the killer that drove it. Just give me a name, and I'll do the rest.
Lt Joe Kenda and his team are working the murder case of Shaundra Murr. They've tracked down the car that ran her over and are now holding two men in conjunction with the crime, John Ritchie and Michael Schell, the latter of whom has a surprising connection to the victim.
Michael Schell was actually Shaundra Murr's little brother.
At first, both men deny any knowledge of a hit and run or even a car crash.
I didn't hit anybody.
But after Kenda threatens them with jail time, John Ritchie changes his tune and reveals some stunning information.
I wasn't driving earlier today.
His immediate statement is, I wasn't driving this car. Oh, yeah? Well, there's this guy that was driving, it's his car. Who's your friend? Well, his name's Teddy Sedlak.
John says he and Michael befriended Teddy Sedlak when Teddy started dating Michael's sister, Shaundra Murr.
Look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
When Shaundra dumped Teddy for Brian Simmons, Teddy stayed friends with Michael and John. He also continued to carry a torch for his ex-girlfriend.
That gives me pause. So you're telling me that the guy you say was driving is connected to her? Oh, yeah. And he elaborately describes what happened.
John Ritchie tells Kenda that earlier that morning, he, Michael Schell, and Teddy Sedlak had gotten a leg up on the holiday festivities.
They bought a bottle of tequila, they bought beer, they bought all kinds of alcohol. They spend all day drinking it.
By that afternoon, all three men were exceedingly drunk.
We can go play on that playground over there.
But John Ritchie still insists there was no car crash.
Okay, where's your friend, Teddy, that was driving this car before? Well, he just got out and ran away.
Teddy, where's he going? Teddy.
Really? He suddenly is going to abandon his car and gift it to you. Don't you think that's odd, John?
But John maintains that's exactly what happened.
It's entirely possible. There's enough alcohol running around in these two guys that they really don't know what's happening. The guy that knows what's happening is the driver.
Kenda begins to form a new theory about how the crime went down. After a long day of drinking, John Ritchie and Michael Schell were passed out. So an intoxicated Teddy Sedlak took the opportunity to pay Shaundra a visit, hoping he might talk her into taking him back. When that didn't go according to plan, Teddy used his car to take his anger out on Shaundra.
I become really interested in Teddy. We start pulling his criminal history up. He is Harry Theodore Sedlak Jr. Teddy is a common laborer for a construction company, meaning that he does what he's told to do. When he does work, he winds up being a guy who has to carry the bricks or bring the cement bags or whatever. The picture we paint of this guy fits very nicely into what happened in this event. He has a kind of criminal history that speaks to a hot-tempered guy.
Shaundra did get a restraining order against Teddy Sedlak. She obviously was in fear of her life.
He was jealous of her finding a new friend. They really got into some heated arguments.
Hey.
What are you doing here, Teddy?
We need to talk.
We're never getting back together.
Why?
I told you not to come here anymore.
I need to come here.
Please
This is where
Teddy.
I need to be.
Just leave.
According to Shaundra's family, Teddy continued to stalk her even after she filed the restraining order.
Brian, he's back.
I've had enough of this.
A fact Shaundra's new boyfriend, Brian Simmons, took issue with.
Teddy was known to be, not a very large man, and Brian was somebody who took Teddy on and had had other run-ins with him where he had scared Teddy and had said, I'm gonna beat you up, or had beaten him up. Teddy was the kind of guy that would try to stay away from Brian because he knew that he probably wouldn't stand a chance if there was a fight or that kind of a thing.
That's enough. Get the hell out of here. Get off the porch.
Okay, we're just talking.
Get off the porch or I'm gonna beat your ass. Go.
Teddy was afraid of him.
When I'm looking at people, I don't want to just rely on the evidence. What kind of person is this?
Teddy's rap sheet.
This is the guy?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Has he done this kind of thing before? In a manner of speaking, yes, he has. Is he capable of this behavior? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. He has the right personality to take a weapon like a car and use it without thinking about the consequences. So now it's time to get a warrant for this guy and go find him. I get everybody on this. Find every address where Teddy has ever laid his head down and bring him to me. And they start hitting addresses all over town, places they've heard of, places, apartments he stayed in, any information we can get on this guy.
But at each stop, Kenda's team misses Teddy by mere minutes.
We're behind him every time we get there. In one place, there was a backpack partially packed in an apartment, and no Teddy.
Worried his new prime suspect might slip through his fingers, Kenda employs a more personal tactic.
I called his mother the next morning.
It's not untypical for somebody who gets in trouble to seek out their parents.
I need to convince his mother that she needs to bring him to me.
Miss Sedlak?
Yes.
I'm Detective Kenda.
Is Teddy all right?
Ma'am, your son's been involved in a homicide.
I said, now your son, he is wanted on an arrest warrant for first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and crime of violence.
No, but he wouldn't have done this.
I have every police officer in the state out there looking for him. And if they find him before I do, I can't guarantee his safety.
I said, he's wanted for as serious a crime as you can be wanted for. And they're going to treat him as dangerous and probably armed. So before he has to explain this to incoming bullets, it would be in his best interest if you would surrender him to me.
Nearly 24 hours have passed since Shaundra Murr was crushed to death by a vehicle that barreled into her. After an extensive investigation, Lt Joe Kenda now believes the killer is Shaundra's obsessive ex-boyfriend, Teddy Sedlak.
I'm not looking for Mr. Mystery anymore. I'm looking for him.
But despite a massive citywide search, Teddy has managed to elude capture. In order to track down Teddy, Kenda turns to Teddy's mother, hoping she can convince her son to turn himself in.
Most of the policemen I know are going to shoot first and ask questions later. So if you want your son to survive this, it would be in his best interest if you would surrender him to me. I won't hurt him. I can't say that about everybody else.
Teddy's mother sits in stunned silence and takes a moment to consider Kenda's offer.
I'll think about it.
Well, don't take too long. Teddy's time's running out.
She finally says, I'll think about that. Yeah, you do that.
Kenda hopes he's put his faith in the right person.
All your money is on one player, and that player has a very deep connection with the guy you want her to turn over, which is going to go against every instinct she's got.
Just then, Kenda gets a surprise call from the front desk. Someone's here to see him.
So I go out to the front lobby, and there's Teddy, flanked by his attorney. Teddy's shoulders are folded forward, he's looking at the ground, and he's almost in tears.
Teddy Sedlak is arrested for the murder of Shaundra Murr, but Kenda doesn't get the satisfaction of interrogating him.
When he finally did turn himself in, he was in the presence of an attorney, and that attorney had advised him not to speak to us.
Teddy Sedlak may be off limits to Kenda. But not long after Teddy is booked, another eyewitness surfaces. An eyewitness who has been missing in action.
Come in.
Lieutenant Brian Simmons.
Brian, I'm Joe Kenda.
Brian Simmons pops up. He finally comes back to the police station, and we're there.
Brian explains that he'd been so grief-stricken over the death of his girlfriend that he needed some time to himself.
He hadn't been hiding from us. He's just been incredibly emotional, perfectly understandable.
Now, Kenda can get a first-hand account of what happened.
Walk me through it. Tell me exactly what you saw, what happened.
According to Brian, he and Shaundra were on their way to pick up their friend, Lisa Jones, when Teddy Sedlak unexpectedly rolled up on them.
He comes by, he almost stops where Brian is standing with Shaundra, and he flips Brian off and says something really nasty to him.
Hey, you. Yeah, that's my girl. Here.
Brian steps out into the street and yells after Ted.
Why don't you come back here and say that, you son of a...
Well, Teddy does. Teddy put that car in reverse and slammed the gas pedal.
Brian says Shaundra made it out of the path of the speeding car, but at the last second, Teddy turned his wheel to veer right into her.
And hit her, drove her into that parked car, pulled forward, she fell on the grass. He backed over her. He looked right down at her, looked at her, and then drove forward over her again and left.
It's a horrifying account, and it drives home the fact that Teddy Sedlak knew exactly what he was doing when he ran Shaundra Murr down in the middle of the street.
The information that he was actually looking out the window could have clearly seen Shaundra in the roadway. That leads more to criminal intent, or what we believe to be criminal intent, give us probable cause to charge him with first-degree murder.
As for John Ritchie and Michael Schell, it appears they were, as Kenda suspected, passed out drunk in the back seat during the murder. With the case now in prosecutors' hands, Shaundra's family attends to the grim task of burying their daughter.
I took 3 of my detectives with me, and we went to Shaundra's funeral.
Without saying a word, Kenda approaches Shaundra's 2 young children and hands each a stuffed animal. It's the only condolence he can offer.
I said, here, I want you to have this. And they took them. Am I gonna make this okay? No. Am I gonna take away the death of their mother? No, I'm not doing that either. Can I give them a moment when maybe they feel good about something? Yeah, I can do that. Little kids need something to hold on to.
1 year later, Teddy Sedlak pleads guilty to second-degree murder. He's sentenced to 22 years in prison, far short of the 48-year maximum he could have received. Although Shaundra's friends and family are happy to see Teddy locked up, it's hardly the outcome they, or Kenda, were hoping for.
There are people among us who shouldn't be allowed to be among us. If I were in charge of punishments, they would be somewhere to the right of Attila the Hun. They would not only be creative, they would be fatal.